moments later.
But go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Andrew Esquire, the Legal Mindset. We teach you, yes, you, to be your own judge. It's been a while since I used those intros. I'm so happy to use those intros. And we're back, baby. And the best thing is that, hey, this is all cleared up. I'm glad Gina's won. I'm glad things are made right between her and Disney. But also, I mean, on a personal, completely narcissistic and entirely self-indulgent manner, I was fucking right, baby. Yeah, we were 100% right on this channel in our prediction a year ago. So I'm sorry, you know, there are certain times where I have to take a victory lap, and I am with Gina right now taking a victory lap. This is so sweet to come through and to come through exactly the way that we thought it was going to come through. There were a lot of haters. A lot of people who said this wasn't going to happen. A lot of people didn't understand this. We're kind of going to take our W along with Disney, along with Gina. And also, you know, Disney does take the L, but they do have some wins out of this. So I am going to discuss, obviously, Disney lost certain things, right? In their ways they lost. And we're going to talk about that. But we're also going to talk about how they won and why they would settle, because you don't settle if there's nothing you gain out of this. So I want you guys to really deeply understand that. Of course, I have a peepee. Of course, I'm going to show it to you. So don't worry about that today. Olga said, I screen recorded and commented on Hollow. It's in spam 522. Okay. I'll double check. I still don't see anything in Twitter, so let me double check. Okay. King Lugia gifted 5 Legal Mindset memberships. Thank you. Clips member for 25 says, but Discovery. Lol, congrats, Gina. No, that's exactly why they don't want to talk about it. Al Braver says Disney takes an L and Gina gets a W. Hell yeah. And Michael Muddragon says 1 as in a settlement. I was hoping for Discovery. Well, she got Discovery. So the thing that is the win is she saw it, right? But the whole point is that she saw it. She realized she was right the whole time, and that was enough for her. And as soon as she was validated in that fact, she was like, all right, we can settle now. And did not need to get that out there, because this is not about, as much as we want it to be about all of us, it's not. A lawsuit is about the person who's damaged, the victim, right? And it's not, you know, the general public that needs to be made whole. It's Gina Carano. And if Gina Carano felt after she saw that she was made whole, that's her decision. Oliver Closeout says, happy birthday. Still gate and lay with the intro, bro. No, I was about on time. Jeff is the Stephen Lordabar Lewis. Gina Carano is one of the few women in Hollywood who I actually believe could kick most guys' butts. She's a trained fighter. A trained fighter is better than a non-trained fighter. I mean, I was actually talking with a girl the other day who's a trained Muay Thai fighter who could kick my ass because they train boxing and Muay Thai all the time. It doesn't matter that she's half my height. She's a trained fighter, right? So yes, if you're a trained fighter, yeah, you're probably doing all right. Larry Powers says, haven't seen you flex like this in Sarah Boone. Sometimes you got to flex. So, and for those that are new to my channel, just so you guys know, I've been covering this since last year. So obviously we have this today. Gina wins the lawsuit. But if you look back, this is my coverage a year ago. Look at this, 10K views, right? 10K views. That was huge for my channel back then, which had about 200K less subscribers. And that being kind of the average. Of course, this did, you know, pop up, and then we started to kind of go up over time, right? And we went up to, you know, up in views. There were, of course, some bad takes, you know, which was very well known. Many people know those ratings, you know, when I rated everybody and their takes on Gina Carano. So people got kind of salty about that. But yeah, no, we've been covering for a while. And honestly, I am very, very happy that it played out the way that we expected it to. And at the core of this, and the thing you need to really understand is this was a labor claim, right? And this is something I explained in my video. Once again, shouting and yelling over a year ago in a different apartment. California Labor Code. So this is state law. It's above and beyond federal law. So this requires that no employer shall make, adopt, or enforce a rule, regulation, or policy forbidding or preventing employees from engaging or participating in politics. So engaging or participating. And this is what people didn't understand. They really thought this was some sort of federal claim in terms of of course, they had some in there for sexual discrimination as well, but they thought it was purely federal or it was defamation, which it completely wasn't. So indeed, we got that on the point, and we said, hey, because of this specific California labor law, that's going to cause the issues. And for those that weren't paying attention, that those that weren't there a year ago, in this case, and of course, here's my PP. Obviously, this was overstatements she made online. And yes, her statements were political, right? They were political statements. But Disney has a lot of employees that make political statements. And making a political statement in California and being fired for it is a violation of the labor code. Now, in other states, that is not the case. So if this had happened and it was not venued in California and it was somewhere else, this might play out differently. But because this was there you go, right? But after we examined that code, we got that. We survived motions to dismiss. We've survived procedural tricks. They were trying at every turn to get her with procedure. That did not work. It did not work at all. And their attempt to motion to dismiss completely failed. But let's read the statement from Disney. Now, this was posted in Variety, but what I want you to pay attention to here, what I want you to really pay attention to here is what Disney is saying, what they are not saying, and also what they say first. So let's read this. A Lucasfilm spokesperson, once again, Lucasfilm is a subsidiary of Disney. Lucasfilm is not a separate company. They are part of Disney. So a Disney spokesperson said in a statement provided to Variety, the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm are pleased to announce that we've reached an agreement with Gina Carano to resolve the issues in her pending lawsuit against the company. So that's this statement. This first statement is just a factual statement. They're stating the news and the facts up front. Now, this is the first thing other than the fact that they settled that they choose to say. And I'm going to pause. Miss Carano was always well respected by her directors, co-stars, and staff. This statement is at the heart of the lawsuit. Gina Carano alleges in the lawsuit that she was not respected by them. She was disrespected by them. And she was treated as lesser than because of her political beliefs and her personal beliefs and her religious beliefs. This statement is what Disney wants you to believe. This statement is why they settled. This statement is absolutely something you should look at with high levels of suspicion. Now, Gina Carano will never be able to tell you elsewise. She has 100% signed an NDA as part of the settlement agreement that she cannot talk about the ways in which she probably found out. I guarantee you she found out, Gina Carano, the way she was talked about. Someone says, who is she? So I'll back up. For those who may not know, Gina Carano played Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. And was one of the most popular characters on the show during the run of the show. Okay. Let's go back here. By the way, let's get the guests here. Cleric Attell for 20 Legal Mindset memberships, also becoming a new member. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate you coming back with that. Thank you. Emu Warrior. It's happy birthday from Oz. Thank you. Member for 34 months, repping the Emus who win every war with Australia, mind you. Red Knight gifting 20 Legal Mindset memberships. Thank you so much.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes.
So let's get into the second half. And she worked hard to perfect her craft while treating her colleagues with kindness and respect. Now, this part I believe. And I believe they sandwiched this in here. They sandwiched the BS in here after a factual statement, the first kind of opinionary statement, the thing you really can't prove, and the thing that was at the heart of the lawsuit. They put that in there and they hid it in between another factual statement. So they put something that is factual. So fact, lie, fact. That's the sandwich here. So this one here, very suspect. With this lawsuit concluded, we look forward to identifying opportunities to work together with Ms. Carano in the near future. That last statement, absolutely true. Part of this whole thing is they want her back. They need her back. The Star Wars film franchise is flagging. She was one of the most popular characters in that limited run. Now, once again, I don't think she alone can save Star Wars. I think that Star Wars is much bigger than Cara Dune, but they perceive it that way, right? And the perception is important, right? When you are flailing or failing or going down, you're looking for anything to help you right the ship, and they view Miss Carano as an option. And beyond that, they have a broad film repertoire. So they can work with her on things other than Star Wars and put her in other products, because they do, and they would love to have a strong female lead who can convincingly be somebody who can beat people up, because she can do that, right? She knows how to do that, right? So they can have a strong, convincing female lead who can convincingly take an action role. And it's believable. Eclipse Warlord said, those who keep going on about Gina being a coward for settling and not pushing for public discovery never cared about Gina herself. Her means were met. We're going to talk about that right now. We're going to go over her statement, because a lot of people aren't reading her statement, and they're not reading between the lines of her statement, because Gina is telling us exactly what she wants and who she is, and people are not listening to that. And they need to listen, because in these settlements, the truth comes out. The words reveal the truth. So here we know the truth about Disney. They want her back in films, and also that at some point she was disrespected by her colleagues. Royal Onion says, if Gina agreed to the statement, it should be fine. No, once again, I think the statement is fine. But what I'm saying is you always need to read between the lines. And I think that's a fair reading between the lines. Warranty Void for 20 legal mindset memberships. Thank you so much. Yes. Japanese Demon Lord of Our List said, conspiracy theory, part of the settled lawsuit gives Elon or Permitter some partial control of Disney. A guy could dream. No, not. She's not that important. And as much as I would like to make it out into that, absolutely not. That is not something they would do for that. That the company is much bigger than Gina Carano. Okay, here's her statement. I'm going to read this because I know it's a little small, but this is very, very important to understand. By the way, did you change when you go live? Love the new time. No, I did this because this was breaking news, and I wanted to cover the breaking news as it broke. Because I will probably do something else tonight, or record more fast facts, or do whatever else. I've got a lot of other stuff. I've got clips coming out, all sort of stuff. So we're going to talk about, we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. And King Luigi said, unlike Rachel Zegler, Gina Carano is a professional. That's true. Gina Carano is a professional. And she's older too. She's more mature. Okay. Gina says, I have come to an agreement with Lucasfilm, which I believe is in the best outcome for all parties involved. I hope this brings some healing to the Force. The use of the word Force is not a mistake. The use of the word Force is entirely intentional, 100% intentional. It's not a mistake, because what that means is she is attempting, or she is going to be in Star Wars films again. And by the way, I just want to give a little quick shout out to my locals community, which, went out of their way to create this meme this morning, which I will post on X because this is hilarious. Thank you, locals. Thank you, locals. This is a good one. That's a solid one. We could always use good memes. Okay. All right, let me do it this way. Okay, let me share this back over here. So she's going to be back in Star Wars. I want to extend my deepest, most great, heartfelt gratitude to Elon Musk, a man I've never met, who did this good Samaritan deed for me in funding my lawsuit. By the way, it wasn't just a good Samaritan deed. It was a deed that was done as an FU to Bob Iger. Let's play it one more time. Just in case you don't know, Elon Musk hates Bob Iger.
But go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob.
That's specifically for Bob Iger. That statement was directed at Bob Iger because Bob Iger tried to come at him hard, particularly with accusations of anti-Semitism, etc. Then that was, some high level, rich people on rich people violence, right? This was a billionaire on billionaire violence. Thank you, Mr. Musk and X, for backing my case and asking for nothing in return. To my lawyers at Schaefer Jaff, who walked me through this unknown territory, thank you for your wisdom and guidance. I am humbled and grateful to God for his love and grace in this outcome. I'd like to thank you all for your unrelenting support throughout my life and career. You've been the heartbeat that has kept my story alive. I hope to make you proud. I am excited to flip the page and to move on to the next chapter. My desires remain in the arts, which is where I hope you will join me. Yes, I'm smiling from my heart to yours, Gina. Gina is, of course, a lovely woman, but I slowed down and emphasized some words there that people need to really, really, really pay attention to. She said, my desires remain in the arts. What does that mean? Gina Carano is an artist. She wants to remain an artist. And she knows if she had gone through with this, yes, she would have won the lawsuit. She would have won the lawsuit. However, she would have lost the industry. They would have likely blackballed her for this because other studios would be worried that about working with her. And essentially, she had to choose. Do you want to win this lawsuit and no longer be in Hollywood, at least in mainstream Hollywood? Maybe you're in indie films, etc., blah, blah, blah. You want to be blackballed from Hollywood, or do you want to play ball here and settle? Right? And at the end of the day, she wants to do her job. She wants to be an artist. She wants to be an actress, right? And she wants to do that. And people need to really respect that. And I think if you do not respect that, you really never cared about Gina in the first place. You just wanted her to be your ideological stand-in, right? Llama said, not legal related, but advice on content creation. Oh my gosh, Llama. Okay, Llama, I'm going to save that for the end. NTR Uncle said, love seeing Disney get the cucking it deserves. Well, that is very appropriate from NTR Uncle. Thank you, NTR Uncle. Rodeo Cowboy says, George Lucas is the only one that can save Star Wars. It needs a whole reboot at this point. Norbert Froelich says, Guten Morgen, Uncle Mindset. You look kind of tired. Yeah, it's the morning. I normally don't get up. It's 10 a.m. too early. Yes. Gruß aus Deutschland zur frohe Stunden. Thank you. I know it's really early. For me. I normally sleep in a little bit more. But today, when I saw this, I knew I had to roll out of bed and get it done. Sometimes you got to do work, right? Annabelle says, wouldn't it be ironic if the upcoming Mandalorian project will rehab Pedro Baxel? No. So anyways, I'll get this one later. But one thing I want to say, what are Carano's wins? So how did Carano win here? Well, Carano gets money. And that's important because she did lose money here, right? So obviously, Carano is getting paid. No shit, Sherlock. Sorry, I'm putting some in the swear jar for that one. But she's gunning money, probably a significant amount of money. However, the bigger thing is the ability to work with Disney and future films and not locked out of Hollywood. Like I said, this would have 100% happened. This would have been guaranteed to happen if she went through with this. Also, the damage to her name and reputation is repaired. Her as some sort of crazy ideological person, that's been rehabbed. And this is an objective victory. Look, guys, the majority of cases settle. 98% of civil cases plus settle at some point. They do not go to trial. Ones that actually survive the motion to dismiss, all that, they're likely to settle. And they're better than court, like Zero Edge says. When you go to court, you all lose. You all spend a bunch of money. You never get everything you want. You never are fully satisfied. You've gone through hell, literal hell. You've gone through a horrible process where they've probed into your personal life. They've asked you questions. There's stress. There's time lost. It's not fun. A settlement, you can walk away with a win-win. And look, guys, I'm sorry, but peace is the best option. I know we don't like that, and we always have to be prepared to go to war, right? You prepare to go to war, but peace is the best option. You know, you have the guns, you have the tanks, you have the fighter jets, right? You have the army, but you don't want to have to use it. You have the power, but you don't want to have to use it. You have to have the power, right? And what this is Gina Carano had the power and she chose to back down. And that is strength, guys. That is real strength and victory. You do not need to try to utterly crush an enemy. And mind you, even if she won, Disney would still exist. You know, there's sort of a principle, and, you know, it's sort of Machiavellian. If you can't completely destroy your enemy, which you're not going to be able to do, it's better to come to an amicable ending where both sides can walk away with some dignity, right? And this is what this is. And because of that, because she has her name and all this other stuff and the settlement's a win, she won, guys. She won. Carano won. But let's be clear. Disney did get some things out of this. Okay? Disney did get some things out of this. And I'm looking at other super chats. Let's talk about Disney's wins first. So what is the win for Disney? Well, Disney prevents Discovery revelations that would have been disastrous. I mean, absolutely disastrous to their public image. If it came out, and this is what I believe may have been in there, and based on the fact they settled, because they wouldn't have settled if it didn't exist. If this didn't exist, they would never have settled. Disney would 100% take it to trial. But this means there were indeed emails, text messages, communications that were extremely biased based on either her politics, most likely her political persuasion, her religious nature, or other of her personal, closely held beliefs. And because these beliefs are held by many people are political, many people are religious, right? And this would damage their market. It would. It absolutely would. And because of that, they couldn't put that out. That would not be something that would be good. And not only that, but to the third point here, this fixes their image of ideological bias. People want to call them woke. Well, if they work with Gina Carano, who people know that she is not of that ideological persuasion, then they cannot call them that, or at least they think they cannot call them that. Now, people can say whatever they want to say, think whatever they want to think, but in the mind of Disney, they will use her as their token, opposition. People like to have that. If you look at a lot of shows, they have if you look at shows that lean left, they have the token person on the right. If you look at shows that lean right, they have the token person on the left. It's the person that you can say, oh, well, we think about their opinion, but they're completely outnumbered. They're usually pretty weak, and they're not usually well respected. But they're like, oh, we listen to this guy. We like this guy, this one guy over here, and that's going to be Gina Carano, right? And by the way, she's not really. I wouldn't even say Gina Carano is like hard right person. I think she's more of a centrist. Talking to her, she seems just to be a nice woman, personally. But politics aside, that she'll be that now. She'll be like, oh, well, we have Gina Carano, right? So they have the ability to work with her in future films. Now, I think you guys need to focus, obviously, not just on Star Wars, because obviously she will back in Star Wars. That Force hint is not just a cheeky comment. She's going to be back in Star Wars, right? As Cara Dune. And probably, maybe even other roles. We'll see. But she'll be in other films because they need a strong action female hero for certain roles that need that sort of person. And beyond that, and this is a really big one. Legal and drama commentary gets avoided right? So public coverage of the trial is avoided. So obviously, look, I would cover the hell. I would be all over this lawsuit. Oh boy, I would love it. LawTube would love it. The drama channels would love it. We would all be eating this up for dinner. Every single channel on YouTube. Now, as much as we like to think we're important, I think the more higher up people like Elon Musk tweeting actively about the case every day, because he'd be tweeting about it when it's public. He'd be putting it everywhere. This would be the biggest thing in legal news. Because of that, Disney doesn't want to go to trial. Disney does not want a trial that's getting live tweet updates from Elon Musk. That would be a nightmare for them. An absolute nightmare. And yes, and somebody said, like, with the films, I think they've already agreed what films they're putting her in. Okay, so I'll leave this up and I'll start to get some of your super chats. So let's get with Marzine Kotwal. Said, winning but being ostracized, not worth it here. I don't think she's going to be ostracized from Hollywood. I actually think that's part of the deal. I think they had her agent in the room and they've already pinned agreements, which they can't talk about yet. But I don't think they're not stupid. Gina and her lawyers are not stupid. They're not stupid. So they absolutely would have had things signed in that room. They're not going to just let them promise ambiguous deals. But the thing is, they probably don't want to talk about those projects yet because they haven't announced them officially. Zero Edge Daniel said, as Legal Mindset said, settlements are better than court. Exactly. Cannon Raw said, for 10 Canadian, I'm so excited to catch up with this. Are there any developments on Reedy Creek that Disney faced? Unrelated, is your book still available for purchase on that and have a badass day? I think I took that one down because I just didn't want to have to worry about the distribution because I had to do it manually. It was really annoying. However, maybe I'll be ending up doing more stuff in the future. So stay tuned for that. Reedy Creek, I don't think there's any updates on that one. I haven't heard anything. I think it's been kind of humming along since they got kind of collaborating with the state and since DeSantis made peace with Disney after he won in court. So there's really no Reedy Creek stuff that's been significant. No, not to this date. There's kind of peace between the state and the district, which is how it should be. High Dragonstar said, what does it mean for all that discovery? Also, what happens if Disney now screws her over that it's settled? Blacklist still stands. Well, I think that would be part of the settlement, right? So if they indeed don't follow through on her side, that would be a breach of the settlement agreement, and then she could come out and reveal information or blah, 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 right? There might be repercussions for that. So hopefully her lawyers got that right. Anthony Lopez says, I don't care about politics. Gina looks like she could take me in a fight. That's why she's perfect for the roles. I agree. Look, I don't give a damn about politics and actresses or actors either. If they just shut up and do a good job, that's really enough for me. Just do a good job. I don't care about your politics. I really don't even want to hear about them. So just don't talk about them. But that said, what they do on their personal social media is technically their business. So, can't stop them. But I just enjoy watching things that are good, right? So just be good at what you do. Red Knight 1322 said, this is an excellent example of both tactical and strategic thinking. I do agree, because once again, you do have to think about the short game and the long game, and Gina won on really both every single time. Olga said, my comment is on Denim's, Caseytron, and Reddit. Okay, thank you, Olga. Billy Oki said, for 2 Singapore, insanity plea is better than settlement. Gotcha. Michael Henton says, doing things for the principal is stupid. Okay. Anyways, thanks for your work, Legal Mindset. I mean, you can do it. You can do it for principle. But at the end of the day, you come to your realistic expectations and saying, wait a second, what are my values? Right? So you're saying, okay, I'm mad at this person, and you're doing it because you're purely mad. In principle isn't really principle, it's emotion, right? It's not, I have this deeply held belief and I am doing it because I have this deeply held belief. It's because I feel a certain way because I was wronged, right? So I feel hurt. So Gina felt hurt by this. The question was not, is Gina fighting for the rights of all right-leaning people. That's not what this lawsuit was about. It was that Gina was specifically hurt by Disney. Has she specifically been made whole? It's not, she was not fighting this broader fight that I think a lot of people led people to believe, right? Now, it could have had an effect that had a broader effect across the industry. Yes, that's possible, but that was not her specific fight. That's what I'm trying to make the point here. And people need to understand that. To understand that this is about Gina. It's not about them. And Gina's nobody's slave, right? So as much as the slave Leia meme is funny, she's not anybody's puppet or slave, and she's not ours to control. She has to look out for what's best for Gina. You should up and seek trial if you are trying to create case law. Yes, I agree. And if there's a principle behind the case law. So for example, if you're trying to change the rule about copyright law, or if you're trying to change how certain types of businesses are treated, and you're saying, hey, I'm doing this on behalf of the cybersecurity industry, and you're bringing a big lawsuit, or VTubing industry for my VTuber fans, right? Or anime, right? And this is something that has broader effect. But Gina's case would not have some sort of sweeping effect on the industry. The California law says what the California law says. It would not change the interpretation of that law. I think the interpretation of that law clearly prohibits what happened to Gina Carano, which is why Disney settled. Wildcate says, speaking of contracts and lawsuits, what is your take on Vishojo changing Iron Mouse contract to take her rights to her music? Said that language was not in it when she signed. No good faith. I don't know. I haven't seen the contract. Her contract. I need Iron Mouse's contract. So if Iron Mouse wants to send me her contract and send me both versions, and I can verify that. I haven't seen the whole thing, so I can't say. I'd be happy to look at it, but I think her lawyer is the one who needs to be the one to look at that. Chaos Capricorn 13 says, Gina is the closest thing Disney got to a strong, independent woman. Need no man. They've been preaching about. I barely noticed because she was entertaining. Yeah, and her role was fine. I didn't have a problem with Cara Dune. Now, that said, was Cara Dune like the best thing since, sliced bread? I mean, she was good character, but she wasn't when you saw Boba Fett or Darth Vader for the first time, right? It's like, okay, it's an interesting character, but it's not changing everything. Michael Turner for 10 says, not everybody is Ethan Klein, where cost is no object. Well, beyond that, Ethan Klein was personally attacked and his family was attacked. So he's a man on a mission. Array for 5 says, I can't imagine the stress a litigation team would be under preparing for a case against Disney, these poor legal assistants. Well, Schaefer Jaff is very, very good law firm, and they were funded by Elon Musk. So they were funded by somebody with money. LeGrill Piece Valenzuela says, if Disney didn't settle, I bet big money that Disney would be in deep legal damage if Discovery went public. Oh, yes. They absolutely would be sunk. They wouldn't have settled otherwise. There's no way they would settle otherwise. Why would you settle if you don't care about what comes out? If you're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You can show the DMs, right? Why are you hiding the DMs? You wouldn't hide the DMs. There's no way. Okay, this is a good one I'm going to answer for Llama. Not legal related, but advice on content creation. Okay, here's my advice. You need to find a niche. And when I say niche, I mean something very, very specific. So for example, the law is not good enough. You got to narrow down. And maybe what you can do is, if you like news like me, you can cover a niche of the news. And then once you get bigger, you can grow and cover more and more and more. And that's fine. But whatever you're doing, you need to do it consistently and not give up. And mind you, you don't need to do everything completely different. You can look at very successful people and do what they do 5% or 10% or 15% different. And that can be great. You can just add a different thing that is uniquely you, that makes you you and you special. And think about what makes you special and what you like to do and what's your particular spin on things. And that really helps. And also make sure you're constantly improving, observing, reporting, looking at metrics, and you stick at it for an extended period of time, 6 months to a year at a minimum, before you'll see much growth. Mini Maria for 5 Legal Mindset memberships. Thank you so much. Red Knight said emotion was the impetus, but not the controlling factor in legal actions. Yes. And by the way, I don't think Gina was completely controlled by emotion. However, in the beginning, there were both significant legal problems, right? They violated the law, yes. And also she was hurt genuinely by what they did to her name and reputation. Both of these things were true. They violated the law and she was hurt. If they just violated the law and she wasn't hurt that much, she probably would have settled almost right away, right after the motion of dismiss. Why did this take 1 year to settle? Because it was serious. Because it was very serious. Annabelle said people forget she was not a stat and did not make a lot of money. I mean, I think he made a star. This was to allow her to make a living, not fight to the end. That is correct. That's correct. Carl Philip Gabler for 10 says, I was originally hoping for Gina to publicly destroy Disney, but I'm over it. John Wright's StarQuest book is better than Disney slop, so I moved on. I hope her career takes off hard. Yeah, and you know what? That's the best. You know, that's the real people I think that care about Gina Carano are people that say, hey, we want her to be able to have a future, right? Beyond Disney, beyond all this, etc. Like we want Gina Carano to be able to be Gina Carano, to be able to be out there and do her thing. And if you just were worried about owning Disney and owning the rat, I think you were off. I mean, you can still put up the funny memes because this is still a solid meme. Okay, guys, this is still a solid meme, and I'll post that. I'll post that on X for everybody to enjoy. But we have to acknowledge that there's more to life than just getting that vengeance. And by the way, victories come in many different forms. So understand that the victories can sometimes even be silent victories. Someone says on locals, Disney doesn't want company emails to get out. That's right. That's right. Also, Disney wasn't able to squash this case. It's very good. It's a huge win. Huge win for Gina. All right, guys. Well, listen, and Chester and Frost says, in my book, this is not a victory. You may not think so. And maybe it's not the victory you were looking for, but it certainly is what Gina wants. And that's undisputable. It's what Gina wants. So if this is what Gina wants and she has chosen to do this, then what's your real concern? I guess it isn't for Gina. And that's fine. I'm not telling you what to think or what to do. Be your own judge, right? If you're saying, yeah, I really actually don't care about Gina, I really care about owning Disney, that's fine. That's your own personal decision. I'm just saying don't pretend like you care about Gina because that's what Gina wants to do. So she's made that choice. She has all the information. She has more information than any of us. Gina has more information than me. We don't know any of this. So if she's making it with the best information, if you don't trust her decision, you really don't care about Gina. Just saying. And you think she makes some bad decisions. So there you go. All right, guys, I have a fast faxed version. So if you want to hang tight, stick around. You're going to be kicked over to that on the redirect. Until then, catch you on the next.
You are coping the ceiling. You just can't believe what you're seeing. It's you coping the ceiling. The truth it is all day, and now you are more.